Hello, and welcome to Feel This Pain Redo. Somehow, people are still finding my videos from the Feel This Pain playlist. It was a playlist I did about 5, 6 years ago, trying to help people understand what it's like to live with various chronic illnesses. And yeah, whenever I look at my analytics for my channel, those are still some of the most popular videos that I've ever done here. That got me to thinking about what Alton Brown did with his Good Eats Reloaded, where he would go back and find specific episodes that he felt there had been enough changes in since the time he first did them to reload them, to update them with the new information. So I figured since there are still a few people out there that are finding these videos and possibly using them as resources that I could do the same thing. So the first one I'm choosing to redo is a video on Sjogren's syndrome, and most of it holds up still fairly well. On a personal note, I apologize for the music in most of these Feel This Pain videos. I was really uncomfortable making videos where the only sound was my voice droning on and on. Looking back, I wouldn't do that now. And also, I used to get dressed up in a suit and tie for this because I thought it would, I don't know, make people take me more seriously when trying to talk about this stuff. But years later, I realized it's YouTube and no one really cares. Without further ado, here's the redo of Sjogren syndrome, originally from 2015. Hello and welcome to another edition of Feel This Pain. I'm Ken McKim, and tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about something known as Sjogren's disease. Now, if you were to do a cursory Google search on Sjogren's, you might come away thinking, it's no big deal, it's just dry mouth and dry eyes, right? It's much more than that. Sjogren's is an autoimmune disease that causes your lymphocytes to attack your exocrine glands, which are responsible for producing moisture in the eyes, mouth, and other tissues. It is much more than just a syndrome that makes your mouth dry and your eyes gritty. Now, many patients experience dry eyes and dry mouth, but also fatigue and joint pain because of the inflammation that Sjogren's can cause. Okay, first thing that I want to bring up that I didn't back then is the fact that there are a lot of people who are dealing with Sjogren's. Estimates by the Sjogren's Foundation put the number of people affected with Sjogren's disease, either primary or secondary, at around 4 million. That's a lot of people. This isn't really, I know it gets classified as a rare disorder. It's not really that rare, not with 4 million people suffering with it. So I don't know why I didn't bring that up back then. So what is Sjogren's? There are basically two kinds of Sjogren's: primary, where it occurs on its own, and secondary, where it appears with another autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus. Sjogren's can affect the nervous system, resulting in peripheral neuropathy, which is damage to the nerves in the arms and legs, which causes pain, numbness, and weakness, or cranial neuropathy, which is the same thing in your face with a loss of taste and smell on top of it. It can also affect the kidneys with glomerular nephritis, which is inflammation of the kidney's filter, resulting in edema, blood in the urine, and reduction in the amount of urine produced. Sounds fun, right? No. Sjogren's can also affect the lungs, inflaming the air sacs, causing them to thicken and scar, which can make breathing very difficult. Something I didn't really touch on as much as I would have liked to is that this can be a really painful condition for a lot of people. A few years back, in I think 2016, the Sjogren's Foundation did a study, and it was about 3,000 adults 18 or older that had been diagnosed with Sjogren's by a medical professional, and they just asked a bunch of questions about how does it affect your daily life and how does it feel to live with it, what kind of things do you struggle with. It was a very illuminating survey, and I'll link to it down below for you so you can go check it out. And they did a good job of presenting it. It's really easy to read and get the relevant information out of it. What struck me about it is that of those, almost 3,000 people, 7 out of 10 of them said that Sjogrens has affected what they can do in their daily lives, tasks that healthy people take for granted, like having to either cut back or discontinue doing housework, sometimes if they can afford it, which a lot of them can't, but some of them will actually hire help to help them around the house because they just physically are not capable of doing that kind of thing with the onset of their Sjogrens. Another issue, obviously, is for people who are diagnosed with Sjogrens but still trying to work. And a lot of them have to cut back their hours, if not completely leave the workforce altogether. It can be a very traumatic condition to live with. It can really have profound negative effects on your life. And I don't feel that I really pointed that out. I really hit on it enough when I did this video the first time around. So are there treatments? Well, of course there are. It's an incurable condition, but you can treat the symptoms. Now, as far as medications that increase production of saliva, there are a couple you may have heard of. One's called Salogen and the other is Avoxic. You should be able to get those from your doctor without too much trouble. If you develop the arthritic symptoms that can sometimes accompany Sjogrens, you might want to talk to your doctor about what are known as non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications, or NSAIDs. Some people have good results with that, but again, you want to talk to your doctor. If over-the-counter eye drops aren't effective for the dry eye, you might need prescription eye drops. There's even a surgical option where they seal off your tear ducts so you retain more moisture in your eyes. It's called a punctal occlusion. But again, it's surgery, albeit minor surgery, so you'll want to think about it before you commit to that kind of an option. And one of the things that this condition shares with a lot of other autoimmune conditions is it's really hard to get a diagnosis. It takes about, on average, 2.8 years to get a diagnosis. And that's a long time to go without knowing what you're dealing with. Part of what inspired me to make this video for you tonight is that there has been a significant milestone, I won't call it a breakthrough, but a milestone in testing for Sjogrens, because there are tests available now that doctors use, but they're not always the most accurate. This new test, it brings a lot of hope to reducing the amount of time before you get your diagnosis. So there's a protein in your tears called ATG5, and how much of that protein is contained in your tears, it looks like it might be a fairly accurate biomarker for determining if a person's dry eye symptoms are because of Sjogrens. So what is ATG5? Well, it's a protein that's found in your body, that it's a part of a process called autophagy. And autophagy is when your body gets rid of damaged cells and replaces those with healthy new cells. And for some reason, people with Sjogrens have higher levels of this protein contained in their tears. So the study that researched this consisted of 86 people. 55 of them had Sjogrens syndrome and the symptomology of dry eyes, and 31 people had dry eyes but didn't have Sjogrens, so they served as the control group. And when compared with the control group, Sjogrens patients had significantly higher amounts of the ATG5 in their tears. They ran these tests over and over, and in the final analysis, this method of measuring for the ATG5 protein was much more accurate than the other tests that they used to measure levels of different proteins in your tears to determine Sjogrens. 98.4% accuracy is what they came away with. That's huge. This is a very small sample size. This could be, like I said at the beginning, a huge breakthrough for speeding up the time that it takes to get a diagnosis. Because the sooner you get a diagnosis, the sooner your doctors are able, and in some cases they're much more willing to help treat your symptoms, and you'll be better equipped to know what treatments you should even start out with. If you want to watch the original video in its entirety for some reason, I'll link to it down below, and I will also put links to the studies that I referenced here, as well as, again, to the Sjogrens Foundation, because they were previously a good resource for this, and they still are. So that's it. Thank you again for being here. I will see you again soon with another video. Until then, I'm Ken McKim. You take care.